I've seen around 500 horror films, and it's clear that there are many ways to categorize them. By scariness, by subgenres, by the number of cheap jump scares. But today, I decided to do something fun and list the greatest horror movie for each year, 2000 to 2023. I know WatchMojo did something similar, but WatchMojo's lists are about as worthless and disposable as a condom made of bread. Anywho, the best horror of the 21st century. Here we go. 2000, Final Destination. If American Psycho counts, then what can I say but...
Impressive. Very nice.
9 out of 10 movie, go see it if you somehow haven't. However, I consider it a horror comedy, which I'm leaving off this list. Instead, let's go with the first Final Destination. The concept of people cheating death and then death coming for them in elaborate fashion is gold for splatter horror. Who knew Death was such a fan of Rube Goldberg machines? It's got a lead that's easy to root for, entertaining kills, and a tight story. The perfect rental with friends. 2001, Jeepers Creepers comes close with its interesting villain and a very believable brother-sister dynamic, but the Japanese tech horror Cairo is too odd and unnerving and underloved not to pick. Watching it is like tripping into that weird dark side of the internet, tunneling deeper and deeper until you have to X out and watch something stupid like a Jennifer Lawrence interview just to cleanse the palate. It's eerie, well shot, and that ghost walking sequence is iconic, or at least should be. 2002, 28 Days Later. Probably my favorite horror movie if, again, we're not counting others like Jaws. This is a gritty, moving masterpiece. Every character feels like a real person. The plot takes some fascinating turns, with one of the most satisfying character arcs ever. The decision to hire athletes to play the infected was a stroke of genius, and really helps crank up the energy that never seems to leave. 2003, A Tale of Two Sisters. Half drama, half horror, and somehow both function wonderfully. The drama is emotional and beautifully performed, and the horror is really, really scary. (2004) Shudder. I'll keep saying it until another movie proves me wrong, but Shudder has the best use of jump scares in horror. The build-up and the timing are perfect, the images are horrific, and they actually make an impact on our characters. It's also the best use of photography as a theme in horror movies. Flashbulbs, Polaroids, dark rooms, it all works so well. And oh my god, that neck thing is devastating the more I think about it. Just make sure to watch the version from Thailand. 2005, The Descent. What a set! Call me naive, but when I first saw this, I genuinely thought this took place in a real cave. Utilizing headlamps and flares as the only light sources for most of the movie adds to the claustrophobia. As someone who's been caving before, this not only felt accurate, but is a horrifying nightmare even before the creatures arrive. 2006, Perfume, The Story of a Murderer. When if I hit 50k subs, I'm doing a video about this movie, because it is so good, so wild, and so worth discussing. It's essentially an 18th century Silence of the Lambs with Buffalo Bill as the protagonist. I love a movie that gets better as it goes on, and I love even more a movie that goes absolutely buck wild in its third act. Sense of Smell is probably the toughest of the 5 that portray on screen, and seeing the movie not just center on it, but relish in it, is something to celebrate. 2007, Wreck. Coke vs. Pepsi. Wreck vs. Quarantine. Except this is more like if the Pepsi had been sitting on a radiator. It's great to see a found footage movie that isn't settling, you know? Isn't using the low budget nature of the genre as an excuse. The realistic, almost documentary style build-up and the natural acting make the plot feel possible, and the camera work is purposeful and intelligent. Not to mention, it's scary as hell. 2008, Lake Mungo. I've never had a movie creep up on me like this. A big part of that is just how genuine it all feels. You could easily show this to someone and say it's a real documentary. Lake Mungo is king above all the other horror pseudo-documentaries. Wonderfully acted and written, this one sunk its claws into me.
It was impossible to dismiss it as a coincidence of shadow play and digital noise. There was something inexplicable in our house.
2009, The Collector. I feel like The Collector should be more famous. It's not spectacular, but it does have a marketable concept. What if a serial killer used traps? And not a solitary, morality-based trap like Saw, but a whole house rigged with the suckers, Home Alone style. What you get is a smart, capable villain, awesome traps, both simple and complex, and the worst game of The Floor is Lava you can imagine. 2010, The Reef. Why are shark movies so bad? Seriously, there are hundreds of them, and I can only name like 4 that are good. Can someone fix this? Anyway, the Australian shark flick The Reef is a suspenseful ride with a good pace and characters you want to live, which already puts it above so many movies in general. 2011, Kill List. Mysterious, violent, hitmen, cults. There are a lot of words to spring to mind when talking about this movie. On and under the surface, Kill List offers much to chew on. Yet the word I always fall back on when thinking about this movie is cool. This is one of the coolest horror movies I've seen. The two men and their friendship and how the plot spirals into obscurity and then mania create an experience that provokes fear in a fearless way. It's bizarre and deep and brutal and just does what it wants. 2012, Sinister. The 8mm tapes contain the biggest scares and use silent events and unsettling music as a 1-2 combo. Speaking of music, Sinister has an effectively strange soundtrack that turns the dial on every scene. Ethan Hawke does a good job as well. Solid movie, even if the ending is diarrhea. (2013) Under the Skin. Some of the best directing for a horror film, as Jonathan Glazer weaves surreal imagery, gritty drama, and even found footage into a mystery plot that's actually mysterious. It's got a terrific intro and a disturbing ending. The music is still in my head after all these years. Once you get to the pop scene, your heart will stop. Even if it doesn't scare you, the craftsmanship and creativity at play stamps it onto this list. 2014, It Follows. The movie's main idea of being followed by something that never stops is both basic and resonant. It's the feeling of looking over your shoulder for 100 minutes. The fact that the monster could be 50 miles away or right around the corner and only you can see it terrifies me, and the camera work only exacerbates that. Add in some strong acting, a killer intro, and fantastic music, and you got the best of the year. 2015, The Witch. I saw this in theaters on a date, and I had to cover my date's eyes during that introduction. What a depraved haymaker. The plot moves a bit slowly in the second act, but The Witch has such effective portrayals of what would normally be familiar demonic stuff. Not just the intro, but the ending, how the farm is affected, and the goat, Black Phillip. Also, it's got the only use of ASMR that didn't make me want to put a hole through my computer. 2016, The Wailing. I already did a whole video about this one, so I'll just say that this isn't a party flick with buddies, but a hefty behemoth of a horror film. The use of setting is superb, and I still think it offers the best and scariest devil in film history. 2017, oof, this year. The Bye Bye Man is atrocious, XX is a confused car wreck in slow motion, The Snowman, Happy Death Day, but luckily It Comes at Night came out that year. Don't hold the bad marketing against it. This is an extremely well shot and unforgiving look at disease, both physically and mentally. I was tense from start to finish. The sense of dread builds like fingers closing around you, and the acting doesn't feel like acting at all. It's not for everyone, but I thought it was great. 2018, Mandy. This was the toughest choice, as Ganjim Haunted Asylum is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. Yet in terms of quality, Mandy tops it by, well, being Mandy. A hazy, vibrant journey of cosmic horror, love, and revenge. It has enough stylized violence to keep the pace up, and enough tenderness to make you care about the characters. Both the cinematography and music are incredible, and the acid trip with the merging faces had me in a trance. It's good to see a movie this outrageous also be this well made.
Strange and eternal.
2019, Midsommar. A contentious movie, but can we meet halfway and talk about the filmmaking? The whimsical music that gives the scenes a different kind of sickness? The sunny pastoral setting? The off-kilter artwork and production design? The convincing portrayal of shrooms? Florence Pugh's performance? The true-to-life tactics by cults to seduce and break people down? That introduction, sweet Jesus! I understand why people don't like it, but to me, Midsommar has a good grasp on fear and psychology and burrowed in me like a tick. 2020, Possessor. Part sci-fi dystopia, part body horror, and part psychedelia, Possessor is an unpredictable and a little messy ride with memorable imagery and buckets of blood. The body-switching hitman concept is so entertaining I want it as its own video game. At least check out the trailer. It's pretty badass. 2021, Titan, or Titan as I mispronounced it in a recent video.
Oops.
Okay, it's a French horror drama where an exotic dancer who's attracted to metal has sex with a car, gets pregnant, and after killing multiple people impersonates a missing person while concealing a titanium pregnancy. And as crazy as that sounds, it's also an excellent film. 2022, Incantation. There are so many found footage movies that don't just use the tropes as a crutch, but as a goddamn wheelchair. Incantation makes them look so much worse by how much they're experimenting here. Themes of parenthood and stress's effect on mental health, fourth wall breaks in that montage. The imagery is fresh and bizarre. Add some creepy sequences and emotional drama, and you got one of the best in all found footage. And 2023. The Conference is a much-needed slasher, and When Evil Lurks has great ideas, even though the protagonist has the IQ of a crypto-land investor. I have to go with Talk to Me. Possession scenes are a dime a dozen, but by infusing the metaphor of underage drinking and drugs, we get an entirely new kind of terror, something that's fun and upsetting simultaneously. The sound design, editing, and lead performance are all great. That limbo afterlife sequence is horrifying and honestly had me a bit shaken. I don't want every horror flick to be like Talk to Me, but I do want them to take this many chances and work this hard. Great stuff. That's my list. I'd love to hear other people's lists in the comments or even in video responses. Check out my recent video on some great horror movies, as well as my top 10 of 2023. As always, thanks for watching.